Masechet Sanhedrin, Daf Ayin Tet, new Mishnah about intention when it comes to murder. Nitkaven laharog et habehema veharag et ha'adam. Let's say I intended to kill an animal. I took out a gun and I shot it in order to kill an animal. Now, while killing an animal is liability of damages to the owner, but there's no capital punishment there. But let's say I miss and I kill a person instead. In this case, there is no liability to capital punishment, because it was b'shogeg, it was by mistake. Although I did intend to kill something, and I shot to kill something, but it was an animal. And since my intention was to do something that would not be capital punishment, and then by mistake I did something that would be capital punishment, I am not liable to capital punishment because I didn't intend to do that. So that's a matter of shogeg. And similarly, the next two cases, lanochri v'haraget Yisrael n'infalim v'haraget ben kayama patur. If I intended to kill a non-Jew, the punishment of killing a non-Jew is not capital punishment. Meiri explains that this was talking about idolaters back then. He says it would not apply to civilized people nowadays. But in any case, back then, killing a non-Jew, although prohibited and could be mitabi deshamayim, other prohibitions, but it's not capital punishment. But then, by mistake, I killed a Jew, also not capital punishment. Or if I intend to kill a non-viable newborn, which again is not permitted, but there's no capital punishment for that. There's a newborn that is not going to survive. Certainly that would be true for a fetus as well. Although there are prohibitions involved, it's not considered murder, liable to capital punishment. And in the end, by mistake, I killed someone who is perfectly healthy. In all these cases, patur, no capital punishment. Nitkaven lakoto al motnav, v'lo haya ba kedei lamito al motnav, v'alchala al libo, v'haya ba kedei lamito al libo v'amet patur. Let's say I intended to kill someone, a regular adult, healthy person, and I intended to hit him, to punch him on his thigh, but not hard enough that it would kill him if the blow landed on his thigh. I just wanted to injure this person. I'm having a fight with him. So I throw a punch at his thigh, but it wouldn't kill him. But in the end, I missed, and I ended up hitting his heart. I gave him the same force of punch on his heart, and it was sufficient to kill him, landing on his heart, and he died. I am not liable because, although I did intend to punch him, I intended to punch him in his thigh where it would not kill him. By mistake, it missed, and I punched him in his heart, which is more sensitive. And so therefore, that's not liable. That's called also shogeg. Nitkaven lakoto al libo, v'ya ba kedei lahamit al libo, v'alchala al motna, v'lo haya ba kedei lahamit al motna, v'amet patur. A next case, if I intended to hit someone on his heart, and it was strong enough to kill him, if it did land on his heart. So, in other words, I had intention, in fact, to give a death blow on his heart. But in the end, I missed, and I hit him on his thigh. And it was not strong enough to hit him on his thigh. And he died. I am not liable. Why? Well, evidently he died not because of my blow, because my blow was not strong enough to kill him, landing on his thigh. So here, even though I intended to kill him, and I gave him a blow that would be sufficient to kill him, so I had intention and action if it landed on his heart, but it didn't land on his heart, so the action in the end was not one that should be sufficient to kill him. Somehow he died, but it can't be only because of my blow, and that's therefore no capital punishment in that case either. Nitkaven lakot et hagadol v'lo yaba kedei lahamit hagadol v'alchala al hakatan v'ya ba kedei lahamit et hakatan v'amet patur. Other variations of this case, if I intended to hit an adult, but I gave him a punch that would not be sufficient to kill him, but in the end I missed, and the punch landed on a child, and that same punch was sufficiently strong to kill a child, and he died, I am not liable because I did not intend to kill anybody. I gave a punch that should have been survival. I just wanted to injure this adult, only because by mistake it landed on a child, and the child is weaker, so that's why the child died. But I didn't intend to kill anyone, so therefore no capital punishment. Nitkaven lakot et hakatan v'haya ba kedei lamit et hakatan v'alchala al hagadol v'lo haya ba kedei lamit et hagadol v'amet patur. If I intended to hit a child, and it was sufficiently strong that it would kill the child. So I have intention and action. Well, I thought the action was going to kill a child, but in the end, I missed, and the punch landed on an adult, and it was not strong enough to kill the adult. But in the end, for some reason, he died. Well, evidently, it's not because of my punch, because this punch should not have been strong enough to kill an adult. So therefore, I'm not liable, even though I actually intended to kill the child. But that same action was not sufficient to kill an adult. And therefore, the adult must have died from some other complication. Aval nitkaven lahakot al motnav haya ba kedei lamit al motnav. V'alcha la'al libo v'amet chayav. So all those cases before were patur. Here's a case where it's chayav. I intended to punch someone on his thigh, and with sufficient strength that it would kill him. In the end, I missed, and it went on his heart, and he died. Then I am liable, because all the more so, I ended up hitting him in a more sensitive place, but I had intention to kill him, and I gave force enough to kill him on his thigh. It went to a place that's more sensitive, so I'm still liable. I'm not going to, just because I didn't kill him in exactly the way. I shot someone with a gun, I intended to get his heart, and then I got his brain. You're going to say I'm not liable? So that's the same. Nitkaven la'akot et hagadol v'haya ba kedei lahamit et hagadol v'alcha la'al hakatan v'amet hayav. If I intended to hit an adult, and it was sufficient of a blow that it would kill an adult, but in the end, I missed, and the blow landed on a child, and he died. Also, I'm liable, because, again, I had intention and an action that was sufficient to kill. It ended up killing someone even weaker. Also, all the more so, certainly, I would still be liable. Rabbi Shimon omer, afilu nitkaven laharog et zeh v'harag et zeh patur. Rabbi Shimon, however, disagrees and says, even if I intended to kill one person, but then I ended up killing someone else, I am exempt. Okay, so Rabbi Shimon is definitely going to be more lenient, and the Gemara is going to ask exactly what cases is he lenient about. What's the exact point of the machloket between Rabbi Shimon and all the cases of Tanakh Kama? So he asks, Rabbi Shimon, ahaya. When Rabbi Shimon says, I disagree, which case does he disagree with? What is this going on? It looks like he's going on the last case, because that's what he says. It comes right after the end. But here's the problem. Ile masefa, Rabbi Shimon poter ba'ele. If Rabbi Shimon disagrees with the last case, then just say Rabbi Shimon says patur. Right? What does it mean? Even if he intended for this person and he killed someone else. What do you mean, even that? That was the case here, because he intended for the adult and he killed the child instead. Patur. So is that the case that he's talking about? If he's talking about this case, just say patur. Why do you have to add in the words? So the words don't fit that he's arguing on the last case. So seemingly he actually would agree with the last case. Ela aresha, rather, Rabbi Shimon is disagreeing with something up above. We just waited till the end. We brought all the cases first of Tanakh Kama, and now all the cases above were actually patur. And so Rabbi Shimon is saying not only what you said is patur, afilu, even, and he's adding another case, also is patur. Okay, so let's define that. Nitkaven laharog et habehema v'harag et ha'adam lenochri v'harag et Yisrael nefilim v'harag et ben kayama patur. It's the opening of the Mishnah that says if I intended to kill an animal, but in the end I killed a person, or a non-Jew and I killed a Jew, or I intend to kill a non-viable infant and then I killed a healthy person, in all these cases, I'm not liable. We can infer from the statement of Tanakh Kama that if I intended to kill this person, but in the end I killed another person, let's say, right? They're not an animal and a person, and not any of these categories, but two people, two regular adult Jews that I would be liable to either of them, and I intended for A, and then I got B. That I want, according to Tanakh Kama, I would be liable. I'm only not liable because the person or thing I intended to kill was not someone I would be liable capital punishment. But if it is two Jews, then adult, healthy, then I would be liable, although I intended for Reuven and I got Shimon. Rabbi Shimon omer, afilu nitkaven larog hazeh v'harag hazeh patur. That's the clause where Rabbi Shimon says, no, I disagree. Even if, not only if it was an animal, I intended for an animal, ended up being a person, even if I intended a person, a healthy adult Jew, and I intended for Reuven, and I got Shimon instead, I'm not liable. Peshita ka'ed Reuven v'Shimon v'amar ana l'Reuven ka'michavena l'Shimon la ka'michavena hainu pelugtaihu. So let's define even more exactly. It's simple to say that, let's say Reuven and Shimon are standing here in front of me, and I come and say, I intend to kill Reuven. I do not intend to kill Shimon. And I take aim, and then I miss, and I end up killing Shimon. That's the very case where Chachamim said that if I intended for Reuben, but end up killing Shimon, doesn't matter, chayav. I'm only not liable if I intended for an animal and I killed a person. But if I intended for one Jew and then killed a different Jew, I am liable. And this is the exact case that Rabbi Shimon says, even if I intended for one, for Reuben, I ended up getting Shimon and I killed him, patur, because it wasn't the person that I intended. And so that's simple to understand that this is the primary case that they are arguing about. But what if it's a more subtle case? Amar lechad minayhu mai. What if I saw two people here, Reuven and Shimon? It says, my intention is I'm going to kill one of these two people. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to kill one of you, and it doesn't matter which one. What about in that case? There, it seems that Tanakama would say chayav, right? Because even if he intended for one and killed the other, chayav. So certainly if he says, I'm going to kill one of you, chayav. But what about Rabbi Shimon? Would he disagree in that case also? Does he have to say specifically, I'm going to kill you and kill that person in order to be chayav? But if he says, one of you, maybe that's not specific enough. Or an even more difficult case, let's say I see a person in front of me and I think it's Reuven. And so I say, I'm going to kill this person right in front of me who I think is Reuven. And I shoot him. And it turns out I misidentified him. It's actually Shimon. What about that case? So here I didn't say whoever. I intended Reuven, but now I got the wrong person. But I did intend the body that's in front of me. So I did get that. It's just completely the wrong person. So would Rabbi Shimon say patur even in that case? Tashema d'Tanya. Rabbi Shimon omer, ad shemar lifloni ani mitkaven. We have a baraita that says, according to Rabbi Shimon, one is not liable unless he says, I am intending to kill this particular person and say his name. Therefore, if I say, I'm going to kill one of you too, and I kill one of you, according to Rabbi Shimon, not liable, right? Because I didn't say I'm going to kill you specifically. And similarly, in the last case, I said I'm going to kill Reuven, and this turns out to be Shimon. I didn't kill my intended target, although I killed the person, but not the person I thought I was killing, and I misidentified. So Rabbi Shimon says patur even in these cases. My tamad Rabbi Shimon, what's his source? Amar kera ve'arab lo ve'kam alav. Pasuk says if someone hates his neighbor and he lies wait for him and rises up against him. Arab lo, he waits for him and rises up against him. So from this word of Arab lo, that he waits for him, it means ad shitkaven lo, until he has in mind that particular person. Ve'Rabbanan, what is Rabbanan going to do with this pasuk? So Rabbanan say, no, this is coming to exclude a case where someone throws a stone into a crowd. There, in that case, he would not be liable because he had no particular person in mind to have intention. It was just a crowd of a bunch of people. So then, that does not fulfill the Arab law that he waited for him, any particular person, because it's just a random person that the stone will land on in a crowd. But if it's two people and he intended one but got another, but he had intention for someone. So as long as he had intention for someone, even if he misses and gets the wrong person, according to Chachamim, he is liable. It's only not liable if he had no intention for for any particular person. He just throws it into a crowd. What is the case of throwing into the crowd where one would not be liable, that the pasuk has to come say, v'adab lo, you have to intend for someone, but if you just throw into a crowd, you're not liable? What case is this addressing? If it's a case where the crowd had 9 non-Jews and 1 Jew among them, well then it would be obvious that he would not be liable because we follow the majority, and the majority are not Jewish. Or let's say it's half Jewish, half not Jewish. Well then we would also, it's obvious that we would follow the rule that in capital cases we have to be lenient, and so since it's half and half, we're going to go towards leniency. So we wouldn't need a pasuk to teach us that case. That would be obvious. Rather, it must be a case where there are 9 Jews and only 1 non-Jew. Now, in this case, you would think that since the majority are Jewish and I throw a stone into the middle of them, I should be liable because chances are that I will hit a Jew. However, we don't say that because we only apply the majority when there's a mixture of something and I take something out or something leaves. Like if there are 10 stores, 9 kosher and 1 not kosher, and then I find a piece of meat in the middle of them, then it's kosher because it left. However, if I go into one store, even though 9 are kosher and 1's not kosher, then I cannot eat it because we focus just on that one store and we say, is it kosher or not? And we consider it as if the chances are 50-50. And here also, it's not that one person from this crowd is leaving, in which case I would say, well, let's see how many Jews versus non-Jews there were. Well, majority Jews, it's likely that that person was Jewish. That's only if someone leaves the crowd. But if I throw a stone into a crowd where they are standing and staying, then we don't apply the proportion of the ratio, but rather we consider it as if it's half-half. Because for each person, we say, this person, he could be Jewish or not. That person could be Jewish or not Jewish. If they're in their place, we consider it 50-50. But that is a chidush. That would not be obvious. I need the pasuk v'adab lo in order to teach me that even in this case, where it's 90 to 90-10 or 9-1, Jewish to not Jewish, still, I throw a rock into it, I am not liable because we consider it like 50-50. בשלמה דרבנן, דאמרין נתכוון להרוג את זה, והרג את זה חייב, תכתיב, וכי ינסו אנשים ונגפו אישה, הרע. ואמר רבי אלעזר, במסות שבמיתה כתוב מדבר, תכתיב אם אסון יהיה, ונתת נפש תחת נפש. The following pasuk makes sense according to Rabbanan, because they say, if I intend to kill A, but in the end I killed B, I am liable. So the case is in Torah, if 2 men are fighting, so they're trying to punch each other, and by mistake they hit a woman, a pregnant woman, and if they cause a miscarriage, then they have to pay. And then it says, and if they cause damage or kill the mother, then nefesh tachat nefesh. Now, when they're fighting with each other, right, and A throws a punch to B, is his intention only to injure or also or to kill? So Rabbi Elazar says it must be that this is a fight to the death. Well, how does he know? Because the pasuk says, if there is an ason, if there is a tragedy, meaning that the mother dies, and they certainly didn't intend to hit this woman who's a bystander, so he had intention to kill the other guy. In the end, he missed the guy, and he punched and killed a woman. So it says, nefesh tachat nefesh, which sounds like he gets capital punishment. Now, why does the fighter get capital punishment? He didn't intend to kill a woman. Must be he intended to kill the other guy. What do we see from here? Well, this is easy to explain according to Rabbanan. He intended to kill the other fighter, but he threw a punch that would be strong enough to kill the other fighter. And in the end, it lands on this woman bystander, and it certainly has enough of a punch to kill her, even though he didn't intend to kill her because he intended to kill someone. That's the exact case of Rabbanan. He intended to kill A, instead he killed B, he is liable. So this pasuk is perfectly understandable according to Rabbanan. However, Rabbi Shimon says that if I intended to kill Reuben and then I killed Shimon, I am not liable, because it's only if I say I am going to kill A, and I kill A, then I'm liable. But if I kill the wrong person, according to the Bishimon, I'm not liable. So why is the fighter liable? Capital punishment for killing the woman. And the answer is mammon. When it says nefesh tachat nefesh, it doesn't mean literally a life for a life. And like in the rest of it, when it says ayin tachat ayin, that doesn't mean literal either. And that you take out his eye, but he pays for his eye. So too here, it means he has to pay damages for the loss of the life of the mother, but he does not have to get capital punishment. Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi will agree with each other. Tanya, Rabbi Omer, v'natata nefesh tachat nefesh mamon. He also says, when it says a life for a life, in this case, it's only monetary. Atalmid mamon eno ela nefesh mamash. Wait a second, how do you know it's money? Maybe it means actual death penalty, because that's what it sounds like. Ne'emra netina lemata, v'ne'emra netina lemala, ma lehalan mamon, af kan mamon. It says netina, it says giving twice. Once when it says you will give, natata nefesh tachat nefesh, that's the second case. And right before that, in the first case, where it says if he causes the pregnancy to stop, he kills the pregnancy, then he has to give the amount that the judge will impose on him. So that the husband of the woman shall impose on him, and he gives it as the judges determine. So there also says the word to give, and that there is clearly money. And so we say, just like back-to-back Pesukim, the first one means money, so too the second one means money. And that's how Rabbi Shimon could solve this problem. In fact, because he intended to kill the other fighter, but he didn't intend to kill the woman, so he's not liable to death penalty. He has to pay money. Amar Rava, Rava says that which the Tana from the school of Chizkiah taught is different from what Rabbi taught, and also different from what Rabbanan taught. And so again, we have a third opinion about if I intend to kill A and end up killing B. This is a third opinion. It's not what Rabbi says I have to pay money. It's not what Rabbanan says that I get capital punishment, but rather I get nothing at all. There is no punishment, not capital punishment, and not paying at all. Well, why would that be? Let's see. The Tana de Bechizkiah, Makeh Adam u'Makeh Behema. Pasuk in Vayikra says, he who kills an animal shall pay for it. He who kills a man shall be put to death. So we're comparing killing a person to killing an animal. Now, why is the pasuk comparing the two? Seems like they should be totally different, because killing a person, that's murder, right? It's a crime. Whereas killing an animal is an injury. It's a monetary injury that I have to pay the owner of the animal. So one is a capital crime, one's a monetary infringement. So why are we comparing them? It must be there's some way that they're the same. Let's see, how are they the same? Ma makeh behema lo chalakta ba ben shogeg lemezid ben mitkaven leshono mitkaven ben derech yirida lederech aliyah lefotro mamon ela lechayevo mamon. When one injures an animal or any other cases of damages, there is no difference between whether I did it shogeg, it was inadvertent, or on purpose, or whether I intended to do it or I didn't intend to do it. If I'm driving and I hit your parked car, it doesn't matter whether I did it intentionally, by mistake, I was paying attention, not paying attention. Any time I cause damage, I have to pay for it. And it also makes no difference whether it's on the way down or on the way up. This distinction applies to killing bishogeg. If I'm lowering something down and it falls on you, I'm liable to go to ir miklat. If I'm lifting something up and it hits you, then I'm not liable. That's a distinction that applies to killing bishogeg. It does not apply to damages. So when we say no distinction in these cases, does that no distinction mean that I don't have to pay in any of the cases? No, opposite. I have to pay in all those cases. The point is that when it comes to killing an animal or other damages, there is no distinction between any of these things. Af makeh adam lo tachalok bo ben shogeg lemezid ben mitkaven lemitkaven ben derech yirida lederech aliyah lechayevo mamon ela lefotro mamon. So too, there is a case of killing a human being where we do not make a distinction between shogeg and mezid. Now, this is not a standard case, because usually a standard case of murder, there is an important distinction between shogeg and mezid. So we're going to have to find what the case is. And it makes no difference whether I act with intention or without intention, or whether I'm going down or going up. And would this be to make me liable to payment? No, because you don't pay when you commit murder, because that's a liability of capital punishment. So rather, in all these cases, I will not have to pay. Okay, so that's the similarity here, that when it comes to payment, when it comes to payment, there's no distinction between on purpose, not on purpose, up, down, and there's no distinction. But there is a difference, of course, between animal and human. The difference is that an animal, I have to pay no matter what. When it comes to damage, I have to pay, whether it was shogeg or mezid or anything else. When it comes to killing a person, then I will not have to pay no matter what. So whether it's mezid and I get a death penalty, I don't have to pay. Whether it's shogeg, I go to ir miklat, I don't have to pay. In all cases of killing someone, there's no payment. There's a question of death penalty or ir miklat, but there's never going to be payment. What killing an animal and killing a person have in common is that when it comes to payment, there's no distinction between shogeg and mezid. Of course, in one, you have to pay. That's killing an animal, because its damages have to pay for the animal. When it comes to killing a person, if a person dies, then there's no payment, no matter what. Maybe because of a capital punishment, maybe not. So let's analyze. Now, this particular clause, when it says, when I have no intent, in no intent of what? If I'm not intending to kill anything at all, then hainu shogeg. That's the same as shogeg. I'm not intending to kill, and then I'm negligent, and the axe head flies off and kills someone. So that's shogeg. So what is en mitkaven? What's the distinction between them? Ela peshita she'en mitkaven lazeh ela lazeh. Rather, it must be en mitkaven means I had intention to kill Reuven, but then by mistake I killed Shimon. So that's the exact case that we're talking about. And now what is the law? V'katane l'chayevo mamon ela lefotro mamon. And there's no distinction. And what's regarding payment? What does that mean? There's no distinction to pay? No, there's no distinction, and I don't have to pay. No matter what, I don't have to pay. Now, if you would say that I get capital punishment when I intended to Reuben and I kill Shimon, then if I'm getting capital punishment, certainly I don't have to pay, right? So you never get capital punishment and have to pay. So we don't need this statement to teach me that. That's obvious. Rather, what Bechizkiah is teaching is that in such a case where I intend to kill Reuben, but I end up killing Shimon, I don't get capital punishment, and I also don't have to pay. I don't get capital punishment because I didn't intend. This is lo mitkaven. I intended to kill Reuben. I didn't intend to kill Shimon, so I don't have to pay, and so I don't get capital punishment. And this teaches me that when in cases of killing, there's no payment at all, right? It's only a question of capital punishment or not, ir miklat or not. And so in this case, we see according to Bechizkiah, he disagrees with Rabbanan and with Rabbi, and he thinks that one does not get a capital punishment, nor does one have to pay. Next Mishnah, Roseach shenitare ba'acherim kulan peturim. If we have a murder, he's convicted of murder and he's deserving of beheading. However, he got mixed up with some other people and we cannot identify him. Now, we must have been able to identify him earlier because you have witnesses that came and said, this guy, we saw him. But let's say those witnesses are gone, they went away, and we don't know which one of the people in the group that we have here is the one that deserves capital punishment and the other ones don't. In that case, they all go free, because what can we do? So that's the opinion of Tanakama. This guy, they gets away with murder because we can't identify. We can't just kill them all or pick one random person, so they all go free. However, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Konsinotan, Lakipa, Rabbi Yehuda disagrees and says, we take this whole group and we put them in jail and we let them die in jail. We feed them a diet that by which they eventually will die. That way, even though we can't give official capital punishment of beheading to the murderer, but he will die in the end in this roundabout way. Now, the Gemara is going to ask, who are these people in there? Because you can't just take random people that are totally innocent and put them in jail and let them die. So we have to figure out who the other people are that the murderer gets mixed up with. Kol chayavei mitosh nitarvu ze bazeh nidonin bakala haniskalin banisrafin. Rabbi Shimon omer nidonin biskila she'asrefa chamura. Chamim omrim nidonin bisrefa she'asikila chamura. Now let's say you have various people who are liable to capital punishment, but different types of capital punishment. Some more stringent type and some less stringent type. Then you kill them all by the least stringent type. Since we don't know which one is which, we can't give them the more stringent, because you can't give someone who's deserving of a less one a worse one, but we can give them all the least common denominator. And therefore, let's say people that deserve sikila get mixed up with people that deserve serefa. Well, it depends who you go by. According to the Rabbi Shimon, we're going to give them all sikila because they think that serefa is the worst. Hachamim say, no, the opposite. If people who deserve sikila get mixed up with people that get serefa, then you give them all serefa, because serefa is better, sikila is the worst. Amad lahem Rabbi Shimon, ilu lo hayta serefa chamora, lo nitena lebat kohen shezinta. And now they have an argument about why they each think that this one is worse or that one is worse. Rabbi Shimon says that, look, a standard person who commits adultery with a Bat Yisrael gets sikila. But then the Torah goes out of its way to say Bat Kohen who commits adultery, serefa. So if serefa was not the worst, then you would not go out of your way in the Torah to say a Bat Kohen who commits adultery gets serefa. She shouldn't be more lenient than Bat Yisrael who gets sikila, so must be serefa is worse. A good argument. Hachamim, however, say, well, if sikila was not the worst, then that wouldn't be the punishment given to a blasphemer and to an idolater. These are the worst sins. They go against the fundamentals of Jewish faith, and therefore, since they get sikila, sikila must be the worst. If those who deserve hereg get mixed up with people who deserve chenek, then according to the Rabbi Shimon, they will get hereg, saif, beheading, because according to the Rabbi Shimon, that's the least stringent one. Hachamim, however, say chenek, strangulation, is the least severe one, and therefore they will all get chenek. Man echerim. Now back to the beginning of the Mishnah. Who are these other people that the murderer got mixed up with? That according to Tanakama say everybody goes free, and Rabbi Yehuda says we put them all in a kippah. Kippah might look like this. Kippah, has like a dome. But here, there might be an underground dome, a place like this, a prison, a dungeon, and they would leave them to die in there. So who are these other people that either they go free or they're left to die, but they don't all get capital punishment directly? If the other ones are all totally innocent people, then obviously, according to Tanakama, you're going to let them go free. Because what are you going to give a punishment to people who are totally innocent? Even if a convicted felon gets mixed up in them. And furthermore, if they are totally innocent people, would the Rabbi Yehuda say that you put them in jail? So it doesn't make sense to say that the other people are totally innocent. Rather, we're going to introduce 4 answers to this question. We'll see 2 today and 2 tomorrow. Amar Rabbi Abu, Amar Shemuel, Hacha, berosech shelo nigmar dino, shenitare beroschim acherim shenigmar dinan, askinan. So Shemuel says we're talking about murderers. All the people in the group are murderers. However, there is a murderer that his verdict was not yet finalized. Witnesses came, they said we saw him, he did this and that, but the judges didn't get together to give the final vote. And he got mixed up with people, murderers, who the verdict was already given, and so they're ready to be killed. So that's the mix. So what are the 2 opinions? Rabbanan say we have to give the final verdict. We can't kill him before giving the final verdict, and we can only give a final verdict if he's there. It's not like the judges can just come and say, well, we remember the case from yesterday, and so here's our vote, and we all put in the vote. They can't. They have to bring the guy in front of them, but they don't know which guy it is. So who are they going to bring in front of him? Just pick a random guy and bring him to the court and make a verdict? They can't do that. So therefore, therefore, Rabbanan says, since we cannot give a verdict to one of these people, we cannot kill any of them. So they all go free. Lucky people. Hilkach kolan peturin. Rabbi Yehuda mifterinu legamre name lo kevan deroschininhu. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, we're not going to let them go free because they're all murderers, including the one that wasn't given a verdict yet. It's not like an innocent person off the street. We know we're going to say guilty. We just haven't given the final verdict. Okay, since we haven't given the final verdict, and we can't give the final verdict without him, and we don't know who it is, so you know what? We're not going to give them official capital punishment of chopping off their heads. Instead, hilkach kontinotan lakipa. So we kill them in more indirect manner, but they really are all deserving of the death penalty, and that's why we kill them in this way. That's answer number one. Shakish says, if you're talking about human beings, everybody would agree that they go free. Even the Yehuda would agree with that, right? Even if you have one person there who maybe he murdered but the verdict wasn't given yet. So you can't kill him, not directly and not indirectly. And so if there's one person there, even if he's a murderer who there was witnesses, but he didn't get a verdict, who knows? Maybe they would change their minds before the verdict. We can't kill him, and therefore we can't kill anybody, not directly, not indirectly. They all go free. Everybody would agree if you're talking about human beings. Rather, here we're talking about oxen. That's it. It's oxen that they all are deserving of capital punishment because they killed someone. Now, one of the oxen, their verdict was not finished yet. So that ox got mixed up with other oxen. Now it makes more sense also why we don't know which one is which. If it's people, generally you can recognize one person from another. But oxen, the others were all given a verdict that they have to die. So there's 10 oxen in a pen, and then one of them that didn't get a verdict yet got mixed up with them. So what do we do? Rabbanan say that we compare the death penalty to the owner to the death penalty of the ox, and just like we cannot give the final verdict for a person unless he's in front of us, so too we're not going to give the death penalty to an ox unless we can identify the ox, and we can identify the oxen. So therefore they all have to go free. Hilkach kolan peturin. Rabbi Yehuda sabar konsinotan lakipar. And Rabbi Yehuda says, no, we don't have to identify the ox. We know that they're all going to be guilty of murder and therefore guilty of capital punishment. Okay, although we can't officially do the final verdict for one of them, but we can kill all of them indirectly. We will put them all in a jail or in a chamber until they all die, because ultimately they do all deserve capital punishment. We'll see two more solutions to this problem tomorrow. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.